Welcome back to the Ninth Man NBA podcast. I'm Luke.
I'm Alec.
And I'm Eric.
We know you'll listen to others long before you do us, but we thank you for tuning in. We chose to call ourselves the Ninth Man NBA podcast because we're like the guy that sits in the middle of the bench and he sees about, I don't know, maybe on average 4 or 5 minutes a game, average maybe a point or so. There's definitely better players than us, definitely better podcasts than us, but we're not the worst out there, I wouldn't say. We watch, talk, and listen way too much NBA not to jump on here and do a podcast. Today we discuss the Pacers' big win over the Cavs, hit the face-off between Eric and I, ties between Bucks and DeAndre Jordan's agent, Kawhi's return, the Okafor trade, and a whole lot more. Thanks for tuning in. The first thing I'd like to talk about and discuss today is the Pacers' big win over the Cavs last night. We won 107-104. Victor Oladipo had 33 points on 11 of 24 shooting, 6 of 13 from the three-point line, and just overall an unbelievable win that we needed. We improved to 15-11. What did you guys think about that big win?
I mean, that's a massive win, especially them on a 13-game win streak. Obviously, they're hot. LeBron's playing out of his mind, doing what he always does, and come to Indiana, and we come out with that win.
Yeah, I think that the unique thing about that game was those games that we win that kind of get us over the hump. And we're going to talk about it later on in the podcast, but it's like we usually feel the Lance effect in those type games. Even Darren Collison didn't play much in the fourth. I'd like to talk about that just a little bit. That's back-to-back games where Darren Collison hasn't seen a lot of minutes in the fourth.
Well, do you know why? It's because he's banged up right now. He's
really?
looking. Yeah, it's probably looking very unlikely. He plays our next game, unfortunately, but he's battling an injury, so that's why he's not seeing as many minutes. He's restricted right now, and they're thinking it's going to be he's not going to play. He didn't seem very convinced that he's going to play next game.
And Corey Joseph in his absence hasn't been bad.
Oh no, he has played it very, very well, especially on the defensive end. He's been exceptional.
12 points and 4 assists off the bench. I mean, Lance, what I was saying earlier was Lance didn't have a big impact in the fourth. In fact, he didn't play much in the fourth. Al, what do you think about our run in the fourth quarter?
Well, I think just the game as a whole, it's one of those games, obviously Vic did some incredible things down the stretch, but he's also 5 of 10 from the free throw line. And then you look at the very end, JR hits that three, his chest is squared up at the crowd, off balance, and makes an unreal pass. And it had all the makings of one of those games that traditionally the Pacers lose. Yeah. Everything that could go wrong down the stretch, missing these free throws, J.R. Smith hitting ridiculous shots. Here's another one they're going to blow. And they didn't. And I don't think necessarily that a win in December over Cleveland means a tremendous deal in the fact that, okay, they beat Cleveland, other than the fact that it's a building block because they finally won a game where the other team was coming back, making things happen. Things weren't going the Pacers' way at the end, and they found a way to hang on and get the win.
Yeah, a couple quotes from the post-game coverage. Miles Turner said that was his first win against the LeBron Cavs. Last year he beat the Cavs one time, and LeBron didn't play at home. Raise your hand if you're surprised. LeBron never plays at home. In fact, I was shocked that he was in uniform last night.
But did you hear what he said? He said Indiana is one of the toughest places to play, which was kind of surprising to me since it's not exactly super filled up. But I mean,
29th in attendance.
Yeah, hearing LeBron say that's pretty cool.
It's pretty sad. Speaking of attendance, we had a little over 13,000.
And very loud Cavs fans. There were a lot of Cavs fans in attendance too. It was not 13,000 people cheered for Indy to win last night.
Well, excuse me, we had 13,000 against the Chicago Bulls on Wednesday. Is what I was going to say. We had a little over 19, which that tells you how much. That's probably 6,000 Cavs fans, if we're being completely honest.
Yeah.
Ty Lue after the game also said, in terms of Victor Oladipo being an All-Star, he says, without a doubt, he is definitely an all-star, which I think that's a pretty big nod from a guy like Ty Lue with his stature. He's played with a bunch of all-stars in the past, obviously with Shaq and playing with Kobe with the Lakers, getting stepped over by AI, so he knows what this kind of view from AI. But what do you guys think about Ty Lue coming on and saying that? I mean, I think that means a lot.
It definitely means a lot, and as much as I love it, I don't know if that's going to happen. I think it's going to take a lot of consistency from Vic. Obviously, he's playing tremendous right now, and if he did keep it up, I firmly believe he will be a all-star. It's just a matter of if he can be this consistent. Any
vote of confidence from a coach is a good sign. Coaches choosing the 7 reserves, so if you get coaches coming out saying, I think that guy deserves to be an all-star, that's got to be a good sign in the way of Vic potentially being one down the line.
we got Al's take on if this win really means anything. Eric, what do you think about this win? Because post game, of course, Victor Oladipo, his humble self said, "This literally means nothing. We're 15-11. We've won some games and we've lost a good amount of games. We just need to keep building."
Yeah. You know what? I think this win's actually big because we're winning the games we're supposed to win. We're beating the Chicago Bulls.
The Knicks.
Exactly. We're winning against the teams we should win against. And then we're also losing to the teams we probably should lose against, like the Rockets per se.
Twice.
Exactly, yeah. But coming out and beating the 13-game streak of the Cavaliers for the second time this season, by the way, that's a pretty significant win right there.
Yeah, it was interesting. The Cavs in franchise history have won 13 straight 3 times, and they've never won 14. 13 is tied for their longest streak, and of course they couldn't get it done against the Cavs last night. Speaking of some big wins that we're beating the teams we should, and we're losing to the teams we should. We lost to OKC early on the season. I know that was our 7th game. This Wednesday, Russell Westbrook, Paul George
coming back.
Carmelo Anthony will be in Bankers Life on this 6-game homestand. What do you guys think about Paul coming back and Vic kind of filling his spot in the Pacers uniform now? What do you guys think about that matchup on Wednesday?
You know, I this kind of just reminds me of the Victor always doing the "this is my city" thing, which kind of brings me back to the Paul George, kind of saying that along the lines. And you know what? I think Paul George, that's going to get under his skin, and I'm waiting to see that rivalry, which I think it's going to become a rivalry.
I kind of touched on it last week. I think that we're going to see Paul George come out and be unselfish. He's not going to want to force. He's going to try and do things at his rate, and you know that's kind of the way that Oklahoma City has played this year. He really hasn't gotten the ball all that often, and I think especially in an environment that it's probably going to be hostile for him, right or wrong. I think people should appreciate what he did, but there are going to be a lot of people that boo him out of the building, and I think that he's going to, in response, be very passive.
Yeah. Continuing the theme of the last couple podcasts, what's wrong with OKC Thunder? I mean, like we talked. Eric kind of provided some thought about. They need to start being selfish, not unselfish. Have Russ taking it, Paul George attacking at all costs. They kind of tried that, and it didn't work.
That's what they've been doing the past couple games. And Russell Westbrook went 10 of 27, I think, last night. So
that's why Eric's not an NBA coach and he hosts a podcast.
That's right. We'll talk about it, but we're not giving it.
I'll give a few ideas, but yeah, it's surprisingly it didn't work out.
Carmelo's been ice cold.
Well, that's what I don't think it's too surprising. I think the big issue is many of you have seen probably by now, I'm a big believer in Paul George. Anytime you have a big three, there's somebody that's going to be the Chris Bosh of the group that sacrifices the shots. Yeah. In this case, it has to be Carmelo Anthony. He's the oldest of the group. I love Carmelo as well. I'm the biggest Carmelo advocate that I know. But he's past his prime. He needs to be the one that's sacrificing shots. Let the other two work. Russ is an unbelievable mismatch, but Russ has to be able to move the basketball. Paul George should not just be standing in the corner as a spot-up 3 threat while Carmelo Anthony's taking 18 shots a game, working out of the mid-post and taking a shot with 4 seconds on the shot clock. They have to move the basketball, and they have to get the ball to Paul George more. If they do that, they'll start winning games.
Are you jumping on my bandwagon that says that he needs to go to the bench?
I don't think there's any chance of him going to the bench.
Yeah.
They just have to move the basketball more with him in the game because he doesn't need to go to the bench. He can be a huge... Carmelo Anthony is your 3rd most dangerous threat. That's incredible.
Yes.
He just has to be more unselfish.
Yeah.
Maybe I think they should just change the minutes. Maybe
like
take out
used to do
Carmelo.
in 2013.
Kind of like stagger the minutes.
Pull him early and then let him run the second unit.
Yes, that's what I think they should do with. But I don't know. I think they should have Russ or Paul George on the court at all times. Kind of like the Boogie with AD thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say this. We said this on the podcast just a couple weeks ago. Paul George needs to get more shots. Paul George needs to get more clean looks at the bucket. Maybe a pick and roll with Steven Adams. Like what?
Sounds kind of like you're missing Paul George. Am I missing something? Reading something wrong?
I'm absolutely not missing Paul George with the way that Victor Oladipo has been playing. Yeah. Trust me. This right here tells you all about me not missing Paul George. Trade happened this past week in the NBA between the Brooklyn Nets and the 76ers. This is the trade. Jahlil Okafor and Nick Stauskas in a 2019 second-round pick for Trevor Booker from the power forward from the 76ers. What do you guys think about the trade?
I think it's a good get for Philadelphia. Booker is a solid veteran. He'll be a good presence in the locker room. You know, he's not going to put them over the top to beat Cleveland, but he's he's a good piece. And again, Jahlil Okafor, a very talented player, was a top 3 draft pick. And it'll be a good change of scenery for him, similar to what happened with D'Lo, leaving LA to go there. Brooklyn, kind of this place where players can go and resurrect their careers, just get a fresh start. So I like the move for both teams. It's one of those trades where not everyone has a winner or a loser. I think both teams won in this deal.
Yeah, kind of going off of that, it's definitely not a blockbuster trade by any means, but I think both teams are winners in this, like I was saying. For the 76ers, clearly you get that depth with Trevor Booker, and you get Okafor, who wasn't even seeing minutes off the team. And for Brooklyn, you get Okafor, who's very young and I think has very high ceiling personally. And I just think that's going to be a good trade for him.
Yeah, good for Jahlil Okafor, right? I mean, come on, like
about time.
Yeah, he got screwed over in Philly. I feel like he never got the opportunity to just throw him in the lineup. Be like, you just say you're a starter, maybe alongside of Embiid. The only time he really got big minutes and started, everybody else was dead or out with an ACL tear. And so I'm really glad for Jahlil Okafor. I think him and D'Angelo Russell in Brooklyn. I mean, maybe in the pick and roll, maybe we'll see some double doubles because he was having some double doubles when he was playing big minutes last year at the very beginning of the season, and then that whole debacle with the GM and the coach. And so I'm really glad Jahlil Okafor got the chance to finally play some big minutes. But for Trevor Booker's not going to start in that lineup, is he?
No.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Dario Saric is going to be the starter in my opinion still.
Okay, maybe he'll get some big minutes when Embiid sits, and Embiid's really not sat as much, which is kind of a good thing. He's been dominating the NBA, and so, yeah. What did Trevor Booker say about the trade?
Yeah, so a 76ers reporter actually asked him, like, what are you really going to bring to the table? And he said he's a passionate player with high energy, and he actually said, I'm going to be that guy who's going to be aggressive, provide energy, and be a pest on defense. And he said, I'm pretty much a bigger T.J. McConnell, which everyone in Philly loves T.J. McConnell, who's White Iverson, basically.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Next, in trade talks, we talked about DeAndre Jordan last week, but there's some more news coming with the DeAndre Jordan. Things are kind of picking up there with the Milwaukee Bucks and the Clippers. So, kind of backstory here, DeAndre Jordan signed with agent Jeff Schwartz. Now, nobody cares about that unless these implications come with it. Jeff Schwartz represents Jason Kidd, Mirza Teletovic, Rashad Vaughn, and Eric Bledsoe. Those 4 players obviously on the Milwaukee Bucks roster. Jason Kidd probably being the biggest name in that. Maybe Jason Kidd can kind of talk to Schwartz because obviously you can communicate with your agent. DeAndre Jordan's a free agent this coming summer. So maybe you talk, hey, if I trade for DeAndre Jordan, is there any give back saying, I'll send these guys and we can keep them? Maybe DeAndre Jordan will sign over the summer. I mean, there's some negotiations there. The Bucks have obviously been trying to acquire DeAndre Jordan for about a week or two, and the Clippers said that they would accept this exact trade. Let's see here. Malcolm Brogdon, point guard from Milwaukee Bucks. Chris Middleton, a shooting guard, and a high second-round pick. What do you guys think about this DeAndre Jordan Milwaukee Bucks swap?
You know, I personally I would not do that if I'm the Bucks. I think that I guess I don't want to do the Lakers PG route of trading away players if you think you're going to get them, which I think we will potentially see. The Lakers will be getting Paul George in the offseason. I think that could be the route for DeAndre Jordan and the Bucks. So you wouldn't have to get rid of those young players with Malcolm Brogdon, who was runner-up for Rookie of the Year last year.
Yep.
So he obviously has some high potential.
No, he was the Rookie of the Year
He
last
was
season.
the Rookie of the Year,
Yes.
okay. So clearly high potential, already producing in the NBA. So I would try to kind of veer away from making a trade and hoping to get him in the free agency, because I don't think they can make a run in the playoffs even with DeAndre Jordan this year.
Now, I know nothing excites Alec Brown about the old DeAndre Jordan, but what do you think about DeAndre Jordan in this trade?
Yeah, if I'm the Clippers, I'm definitely accepting that trade. Get that sorry bum out. No, I mean, he's a good defensive player and he can rebound, but if I'm the Bucks, there's no way I'm giving up Malcolm Brogdon, Chris Middleton, and a pick to get DeAndre Jordan.
I mean,
Do you accept that?
I'm considering, and this
Accept it, yes. Propose it, no way.
I'm considering, if I'm the Milwaukee Bucks, I'm considering making that trade. Just hear me out. What if the Eric Bledsoe, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and
If you call that a big 3, you're crazy.
Yeah.
that's a big 3 with DeAndre Jordan. No, that's absolutely. He's averaging 10 points and 14 boards, and he's hardly trying for the Clippers in my opinion.
You're saying Eric Bledsoe's
And D'Angelo Russell and Jaleel Okafor and Ron Hollis
Yeah.
Jefferson are big three in Brooklyn.
Hollis Jefferson's having a great year.
Start
I think
naming three players, we got big threes.
Hear me out. Maybe they can swindle, kind of negotiate. What if you drop Malcolm Brogdon off and you send Chris Middleton and a first round pick, let's say, to the Clippers? Are you accepting that trade for DeAndre Jordan?
Chris Middleton is a great 3-and-D in today's
Yep.
NBA.
When healthy, Chris Middleton.
It's
you
the same
want him
thing,
on your
like
team.
how KD has kind of become almost a rim protector of sorts for the Warriors. That can be Giannis. You don't want to give up Chris Middleton to get DeAndre Jordan. Like, Chris Middleton is a huge piece for them.
Yeah, and
Which the Bucks do need a center pretty badly. I know they're starting Thon Maker at center earlier in the year, and I
now
know
it's John Henson.
Yeah, they veered toward John Henson, who's a little bit better, but still very young, and obviously not doesn't have the production that DeAndre Jordan would have.
Yeah. Now, next, let's enter into the best segment of our podcast, and that's the face-off. The face-off between Luke and Eric.
All right, for today's face-off, there's only three of us, so I'll be the judge, jury, and executioner. I'm asking the questions and deciding who wins. First question: who is the most valuable role player in the NBA? Could be a super sixth man, could be a center that's a good rim protector, gets some back taps, and does a lot of the dirty work.
Yeah, I'm going the route of the center, kind of the centerpiece for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that's going to be Steven Adams.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing that we talked about this last pod, Al kind of talked about how Steven Adams has a chance of being, a big three if you lose maybe Paul George to the Lakers next year. Steven Adams could sit in that role. Maybe call it a big four that they have right now.
Maybe the Bucks should get him for a big three.
Yeah, there you go. With the rebounding and with the defensive presence, that's a great asset to a team that has a lot of scoring. Doesn't need him to score. It has a lot of passers and Russell Westbrook and things like that. Roberson and Steven Adams are the two pieces in that starting lineup that really D up on that team. And so I'd have to go with Steven Adams.
I'm going to have to go with, fellow Pacers fan, I'm going to have to go with Thaddeus Young. And I think Thaddeus Young is the definition of a role player. Like I said last podcast, the Pacers only have 2 plays for him. So clearly not going to be your best player. But he knows his role. He is the definition of a glue guy. He gets so many offensive rebounds, keeps the plays alive, plays tough defense on the hard matchups. He's going to give you 100% every night.
All right, I like that. Let's move ahead to the second question of the face-off. Is it a foregone conclusion that in the second week of June we will see the Golden State Warriors hoisting the Larry O'Brien trophy, or is there a team that can stop them?
No, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, and this is why. Their names are James Harden and Russell Westbrook. And you say we just got done talking about the Russell Westbrook and the issues in OKC. The beautiful thing about the NBA is it's really not 2 teams. And I know there's been an argument like this is boring, that we know 2 teams are going to the finals. It's not. That's not the case. The Rockets are really coming on with the addition of Chris Paul. The road to the finals for the Golden State Warriors is going to be much tougher than it is for LeBron and the Cavs to get there. So we've seen kind of like an identity crisis with KD trying to be a bad boy and getting tossed out 3 of the last 18 games. We've seen some issues with injuries for the first time in their run as a powerhouse. And so this Steph Curry ankle tweak, guys, he's had issues with his ankles his entire career. They say they're going to reevaluate in 2 to 3 weeks. My guess is, and I'm assuming with his ankle, they're not just going to be precautionary or things like that. I think this is a serious injury that might bleed in to the later parts of the season.
Eric?
I'm going to have to disagree with you, although I'm getting tired of seeing the Cavs versus Warriors every year in June. Although it is crazy competitive, and I do love watching it. I would like to see a new team, but sadly, I think it's going to be Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and all that star power holding that trophy up again.
Foregone conclusion, they win it all.
Yes, they're going to win it all again this year. They debatably have the best bench, and that's coming from Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry being your starters. Obviously, you have Zaza Pachulia or JaVale McGee. Yeah, huge piece right there. But no, the star power is just remarkable there. Kevin Durant going for a triple-double even when Draymond Green and Steph Curry are out. So clearly, they can win without those guys. I think they're going to be the front runner, and they're going to win it all again, sadly.
All right, and the final question of this face-off. Some news came out earlier this week that LeBron just bought a second home in L.A. has made like $23 million, and a lot of people said, okay, he's going to LA. So let's say that LeBron does, in fact, leave Cleveland in this offseason. Where does he go and why?
He's going to the Los Angeles Lakers. There's zero doubt in my mind he'd go anywhere else. Although he does love the East because it's honestly a pretty easy ride, I think he's going to go to the West. I think he's going to go to the West Coast as well for the Lakers. I think they're a young team, although they wouldn't have the second man as in like Kyrie Irving or anybody like that that could take the weight off his shoulders exactly. But you got Brandon Ingram on the rise. You got an awesome point guard in Lonzo Ball, and I think LeBron loves that style of play and loves just Lonzo. So I think that LeBron would choose the Lakers.
I'm thinking he's choosing the Lakers. Okay? I agree with Eric on that point. But the point that he chooses the Lakers, now I actually think that he might end up, no, I think he's going to Lakers. I really do. I think he's going to wear a Lakers jersey next year, but it's not going to work out. That team is nowhere close to being ready for a player of the stature of LeBron James. You can't just throw him in and hope the pieces around him. Yeah, they're going to get better. It's LeBron James. He's the best player at making other players that aren't so good make them play at an okay or maybe raise from good to great. That's not going to work out. I know I didn't answer your question completely, and I apologize for that because we kind of had the same answer. That Lakers team will not work out if that's the case.
Does Paul George go there? That could be a question too.
You want to ask some questions? No,
That's true. No, but if PG goes there and LeBron, it would work out.
Paul George and LeBron James with those other pieces does not work out in the West. Golden State Warriors are still better, and it's really, in my opinion, not close.
So then, if it's not close, why would you say the Rockets with Chris Paul and James Harden are going to potentially beat the OKC Warriors? Holy cow!
Who's better role players, Ryan Anderson and Eric Gordon, or a year two Lonzo Ball
or
and
Brook
Lopez?
And the Rockets have a top 5 bench right now. That team is with D'Antoni. They're running a very unique offense. He wants to shoot. D'Antoni wants them to shoot 53s. The Cavs nor the Lakers are going to be doing that. That's why it's a unique style. They don't have that those 3 stars in OKC. It doesn't work out like that in my opinion.
All right, I will say I was kind of hoping one of you would take a leap of faith there, and we've heard some rumors of LeBron, maybe Philly, or maybe even some crazy ones of Houston. I don't know how that would work, but I was kind of hoping one of you might say one of those 2 teams, but LA definitely, if he does leave Cleveland, has to be the favorite, so I can understand that. But for this week's face-off, I'm going to have to go with Luke as this week's winner. I was hoping on the first question one of you might even say Eric Gordon, but I think the difference is Thad Young is a great role player, but in terms of most valuable, he's never really been on a team that's mattered. Steven Adams has been a huge role player on a team that had Golden State down 3-1, and foregone conclusion that Golden State wins it all. I like what Luke said, especially about Steph's ankle and the issues he's had. This is the first time we've seen Golden State battle health, and some of it, with Steph, obviously more serious than others, where it's just, okay, we're going to give him a night off. We don't care about winning 73 games anymore. But I think we're starting to see the Golden State's not bulletproof, so I think Luke takes this week's face-off.
That's why they're sitting out and all that. I know Steph's injury is not sitting out.
You should have made that point during the face-off. A little too late to make your argument. Luke wins this week's face-off.
Yes.
Congratulations. Okay, it's time for us to move into the next segment of today's podcast. We're going to do buy or sell again. We unveiled that last week, but with a little different twist. Last week, we all decided on a specific team or player that we were going to buy, sell, or hold on. This week, we're going to have specific topics presented to us, and then all 3 of us will either buy or sell. So, Eric, first up, are you buying or selling the New York Knicks, currently sitting at 12-12 as a 500 team?
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to sell them. I do like what they're doing in New York, getting rid of Carmelo, although I love Carmelo. But Porzingis being the face of the city, I like that. But with Hardaway Jr. out and some back spasms with Cantor and even Porzingis, the injury bug's starting to hit them, and they're just not that deep of a team by any means. So I think they're going to just lose a couple games in a row, and then it's just going to go downhill from there.
I'm buying on the Knicks. I think Chris Stapps by himself was a better fit than Chris Stapps alongside Melo because they can really accent the way he plays. It's all about Chris Stapps Porzingis, and if that's the case, he's going to go off for crazy numbers that he has. And so Chris Stapps, I believe, is averaging 25.4 points, 6.7 rebounds, and an assist a game. That is a guy I could put my back on and carry a team right there. So I'll stick with 500. I'm a little nervous about the very last 3 weeks of the season when that playoff push is coming. Do they stay at 500? If not, but I'm buying right now.
I'm also going to have to buy the New York Knicks as a 500 team. They're sitting 12-12 right now and at the 9 seed. And the reason being, looking at the Eastern Conference standings, there's not any team ahead of them that they're better than. Even, Washington sitting in the 8 seed, they'll get John Wall back healthy. They're clearly better. But I also don't think the teams below them are better. They don't have a tough strength of schedule, so they'll pick up those wins against the Bulls, the Hawks, the Hornets, enough wins to float around 500. I'm not saying they're going to finish exactly 41-41.
Right.
Maybe they're 40-42 or 39-43, or maybe they even sneak in a couple games above 500, but they're going to be right there at that 500 threshold. So I'm buying the Knicks sitting at 500 the rest of the way. Kristaps Porzingis is fantastic. Kanter can score. They're not a good team. They're not going to do anything in the playoffs. The East is not good, though, and a couple of the teams in the East have overachieved, like the Pacers even, but just the East isn't good. So the Knicks are going to stay right around 500 all year long.
Yeah.
Next, buy or sell. Last night, Cleveland, against Cleveland, Victor Oladipo played fantastic. And there's been a lot of discussion amongst Pacer fans. Is he better than Paul George? Is Paul George better than him? Is it just a fit? So, with that being said, buy or sell Victor Oladipo as a top 15 player in the NBA?
I'm selling. I'm selling on this take. Top 15 is a stretch. We debated all summer, Alec and I did, post the Paul George trade. Is Paul George a top 15 player? And I'm not saying that Paul George is a top 15 player. If I don't think Paul George is a top 15 player, I have a hard time saying Victor right now is a top 15 player. I mean, heck, we've played 24 games. So we'd probably pause the break or hit the brakes just a tad. I'm the guy that gets way ahead of myself. So let's just pump the brakes just a tad on Depot. He's amazing right now. He's averaging 23.6 points per game, 3.9 assists, and 5.3 rebounds a game. He's killing it, and I think he should be an all-star. Top 15, that might be in question.
I'm going to have to sell as well, unfortunately. There's just top 15, that's just unrealistic. I mean, you have to be realistic with this, and I think top 20, top 25 would be a bit of a better debate, but top 15, that's going to be pretty tough. But I do love what he's doing right now.
If you look at Victor Oladipo's whole career and how long he's been in the league in these 5 seasons, no way you can credit over those. I'm going to be a devil's advocate here just based off of this season, and I'm going to go ahead and buy it because this season alone, through the 26 games that the Pacers have played, they're 15-11, which is beyond all expectations.
Absolutely.
I was the one at the start of the year saying there's no way Debo keeps this up. There's no way he keeps this up. There's no way he keeps this up. He went to IU. I hate IU, so I was not high on Victor Oladipo coming in. And through the 24 games, he's played like a top 15 player in the NBA. So I'm going to go ahead and buy it.
I like that. I like that you did that.
I'm just a bigger Pacer fan than you guys, basically. What it comes down to. All right, next one. Sitting at 13-13, they've battled injury. They've lost some key pieces, but they have a great coach and are kind of starting to get a little healthy. Are the Utah Jazz a playoff team in the West? Buy or sell?
I'm selling. They just got Gobert back, and so that does say a little bit about their 13-13 record. I think it would be better if Gobert didn't get hurt.
Yep.
There is just those middling teams in the Western Conference. It's jam packed, and I don't think the Jazz, although the up and coming Donovan Mitchell and they've obviously got Rubio and Gobert kind of accenting one another in pick and roll. But I'm gonna sell because it's just they're not one. They're gonna be competing for the 8th, 7th, 6th, if you want to say 6th. They're gonna be 8, 9, 10 roll. So they sneak right out of the playoffs, 9, 10.
I'm gonna say they sneak right into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say. I know they're sitting currently right now in the 7th seed.
Yep.
It's early, but 7th seed. But the only other team that's outside of the playoffs that really is going to take their spot is OKC.
Yep.
So I think they're going to get the 8th seed. I don't think they're going to surpass the 8th seed by any means, but I think they're going to sneak in. Unfortunately, I don't like their play style because they're slow, kind of not
boring.
Exactly. They're not what the NBA really is kind of gearing towards. But I do love Donovan Mitchell, like I said in podcast last time. Rudy Gobert, potentially Defense Player of the Year. They have a lot of potential, but just sticking with the 8 seed.
Just a second. Did you say that OKC might not sneak into the playoffs?
No. OKC's going to get in for sure. I think they're going to take that.
Well, I'll go ahead and address that here and what's happening, because right now the Jazz are 7th, 13-13, tied with the Pelicans at 13-13, and the Thunder are 11-13 at 9. Now, there's no team in the West other than those 3 teams that are going to be at that spot, because the Clippers are 9-15, don't have Blake, don't have Patrick, like they're done. It's the teams 1 through 9 right now are who's going to be in the playoffs. But even if they never get it figured out, and it looks like the Lakers did with Dwight Howard, Steve Nash, and Kobe, at worst, OKC is going to be an 8 seed. There's no way they miss the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree.
And Boogie and AD are better than what Utah has to offer. The Pelicans will be ahead of the Jazz. So I see the Jazz being the 9 seed. I'm going to sell, even if that means that the Pelicans are the 7 and OKC's the 8, which I think OKC will work their way up, maybe get past the Nuggets at some point. But there's no way OKC misses the playoffs. The Jazz are the team left off the list in the West. They're going to be the 9 seed and miss by a couple games. Our next topic, a player that some people have claimed is a candidate for most improved player. He's been a very big piece. He's been improved. He's no longer just a dunker. Are you buying Aaron Gordon as a shooter? He's shooting 49% from the floor and 41% from 3 and 77% from the free throw line. Came out of Arizona, out of school. Everybody knew he could fly, but he definitely never had a 3-point shot in his bag. Are you buying Aaron Gordon now as a shooter and a more evolved basketball player?
You know, I'm going to have to buy on this. I was a skeptic at first, by all means. But when I saw his usage rate and how his field goal percentage when he's playing one-on-one basketball, it is exceptionally high. And I was very impressed by that. Obviously, the production's being consistent right now, so I'm going to have to buy it.
I'm buying Aaron Gordon as well. I think we've seen this trend in the last 20, 25, maybe forever in the NBA. These college stars that are really they're stars because they're just athletes and they're just better athletes than other players. When they step in, we saw this with LeBron James. When they step in to the limelight on an NBA court, their shot kind of disappears for a couple years, and they really need to work on form. We're obviously seeing this with Markelle Fultz right now, where he has a broken shot. I'm buying Aaron Gordon because I believe his shot's only going to get better, and the opportunities that come when they maybe add pieces to that team in Orlando, I'm buying on him being a shooter.
Yeah, I'm going to buy Aaron Gordon as well and bank a little bit off of what you said there at the end, because he's really putting up these numbers without anybody really helping.
Not much
like
help. Evan Fournier.
Elfrid Payton is a solid player, but Elfrid Payton doesn't have a shot. Evan Fournier is an okay piece, but he's not striking fear into defenses in the boys having to play in Orlando. So the fact that Aaron Gordon is doing this as a number 1 option basically in today's NBA makes me believe that as he continues to get older and maybe as more players either come to Orlando through trades or whatever, or as he ends up somewhere else, that he's going to be able to sustain this as he continues to get more open looks, especially considering he finishes 78% around the rim. So I'm buying his improvement as a shooter as well. And finally here, are we buying or selling as Pacer fans that the Lance effect is a real thing? We saw him leave Indy, go play in Charlotte and in LA and struggle and in Memphis, and then he comes back here and it's just something about he's home. He's talked about it. Is the Lance effect a real thing both for him and for the Pacers? He's averaging 8 points, about 5 boards, and 3 assists a game in the 20 minutes he's played. Got off to a bad start, but he's starting to turn the corner. Is this a real thing?
Not really an option here, but I'm holding. And let me tell you why. Let me tell them why I'm holding, because
you cheat in everything. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. That's why.
Let me ask you a clarifying question here. Are we talking about the Lance effect at home? How when he's home, like not just Indiana, but when he's in Indy playing, it changes things, or on a team.
See, I like that you're holding because I think we have to talk about everything. We can't just break it down. Is the Lance effect real at home, or is it real on Wednesdays, or real when he's wearing Jordans? Is the Lance effect a real thing? So if you're going to hold, go ahead and hold.
Yeah, I'm going to hold it because we see the Lance effect in bursts, and then the Lance effect is just completely dismissed for maybe a 2-game stretch, things like that.
I'm gonna have to buy it, and why I say that is clearly it did not work out in all those other teams that he played, and a new system. It kind of scared me. I didn't know if he was going to fit when he got back, but clearly turned the corner a little bit. He's on the rise for sure, and just so much freedom in Indiana just gives him just all the confidence in the world. So I think I'm going to have to buy that.
I'm going to buy the Lance effect as well, just because you see with Lance Stephenson, kind of whatever team he's on goes as he goes. And if he has a good game, typically the Pacers are going to win. And if he struggles because of the way he plays, he's not going to struggle and only take 2 shots. He's going to do things that are crazy.
Yeah.
His team oftentimes is going to lose. And you saw the way he affected some teams as a bad fit in Charlotte. And I think the Lance effect is a very real thing. And because of the fact that you said, like, oh, at home, they're better. Well, on the road, it's the same player playing the same minutes affecting the team negatively. So I'm going to buy that the Lance effect is a real thing. And that'll conclude our buy or sell for this week's podcast.
Speaking of Aaron Gordon, I'd love to talk about one of the awards that come at the end of the year, and that's the most improved player. I would like to discuss 4 players, and we'll kind of give you their overall stats from the 16-17, which is last season, and then the 17-18, which is this season. Aaron Gordon, obviously, Andre Drummond, Kristaps Porzingis, and ours truly, Victor Oladipo.
He is ours only as well. You can't have him anybody else. He's Indiana's.
So let's run through them very quickly, and then we'll discuss what you guys think who is the most improved right now. Aaron Gordon in last season averaged 12 points per game, 2 assists, and 5 rebounds. He's improved to 18.5 points a game, 8 boards a game, and 2.2 assists per game. Andre Drummond last season was 13.6 points per game, 13.8 boards, and 1 assist. This season he's averaging 14.4 points, 15 rebounds, and 4 assists. Kristaps Porzingis is averaging last season was 18 points, 7 boards, and 1.5 assists. This year he is at 25 points a game, 6.7 boards a game, and an assist. Oladipo last season, 16 points a game, 4.3 boards a game, and 2.6 assists. This season he's averaging 23.6 points per game, 5 rebounds a game, and 4 assists. What do you guys take? Who would you take right now as the most improved player? Take everything into account, not just stats, of course.
Yeah. You see, with a couple of those, they're in different situations. Kristaps Porzingis doesn't have Melo taking a bunch of shots, so clearly he's going to score more because he's the man. You have Victor Oladipo going from Russell Westbrook's second-hand man, I guess you could say, to now being the man in Indiana. But with that being said, I'd have to go with Victor Oladipo. The Pacers are 15-11 right now, 4th in the East. I just think his jump shot is very smooth, very efficient on the defensive end. I'd have to go with Victor Oladipo.
I'm going to take Aaron Gordon right now because of the shooting percentage in which we talked, the free throw percentage in which we talked. But he's jumping up 6 points in points per game, and he's jumping a ton. He's jumping over almost 4 rebounds a game. So the way he's kind of taken on, we talk about most improved. Victor might have improved, but he may have been the same player in OKC. We would have just never known. Russell Westbrook was taking the ball out of his hands. This is literally not the situation. Aaron Gordon is in the most similar situation of these 4 players last season as he is this season, and his point production's gone way up. His field goal percentage has gone way up. His 3-point percentage is out of the roof in compared to last season. I'm going with Aaron Gordon.
I'm going to go with Andre Drummond on this one, and the reason being, like you said, you see Kristaps Porzingis is in a different fit. Now he's the number 1 option. Victor Oladipo is in a new fit. Whereas Andre Drummond is back on pretty much the same Pistons team.
True.
He's only scoring 1 point per game more, but I think if you're going to look at improvement, historically, statistically, the worst free throw shooter in NBA history, shot 39% from the free throw line last year and is shooting 61% this year. So, I mean, that's obviously a huge improvement. He also never averaged more than 1.1 assists per game. That was his career high, and this year he's averaging 4 assists per game. Granted, his turnovers are up a little bit. They're using him more. He's getting more touches, but he's really improved in a lot of different ways in playmaking, and you can't just hack a Drummond anymore because even if he's not a great free throw shooter, he's not a total liability, which means Van Gundy can play him late in games in the 4th quarter when in years past he could not be on the floor if it was a close game late because teams would foul him, he'd miss both free throws, they'd go down and score. So I'm going to have to go with Andre Drummond as the most improved player this year.
Nothing like here on the Ninth Man NBA podcast, we discuss 4 players, and of course, there's 3 of us that take a different player. We thank you for tuning in to the Ninth Man NBA podcast. Catch us next week on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe. We love doing this so much that we'll be back next week. See you.